Welcome to another documentary business webinar. And today we're revisiting a really wonderful session that was organized for MIPDOC last month in Cannes. We did a case study, and the case study was from ZDF Studios and Off the Fence, working with CMG in China Media Group, and the subject was time. And, you know, I always marvel at how programs, particularly complex international co-productions, become realized, how you move from concept to final delivery. And this story is really a fascinating one for me, particularly because it involves China. And China was a market of such promise years ago, seemed to pull back on our horizon, but is coming forward again. So I want to welcome the co-producing partners of this wonderful show, Nicholas and Jia, and I'm going to ask you to introduce yourselves first of all, and then we'll go into how the program came about. So why don't you start, Nicholas?
Yeah, so I'm Nicholas Hilbusch, Director of Unscripted at ZDF Studios. So within our Unscripted team, I take care of acquisitions and co-productions with regard to our international unscripted distribution business.
Thank you, Nicholas. And Jia, where are you based again?
I'm based in Amsterdam, so I'm a Chinese-Dutch producer doing indie documentaries, but at the same time, I also work for Off the Fence, as Peter, you kindly introduced, which is a factual studio based also in Amsterdam. So there I am head of Asia, doing sales and co-productions with Asian countries.
And Jia, I remember when we were prepping for this session, you revealed that you speak many languages. So you have a special facility for international co-production.
Well, for this one, I particularly use English and Chinese.
So let's go back to concept. Well, first of all, tell us about time, the concept, and how the project was conceived and developed. Why don't you start, Nicholas?
Yeah. So the first idea came up in ZDF's Terra X department, namely between the two authors, Jens Monat and Heike Schmidt in the Terra X department, during the COVID lockdown, because we all had the feeling that time flows differently when we have really nothing to do. We can't go outside, can't do anything. And that was really the first spark to that idea. Why don't we do something about time? And well, of course, Jens and Heike approached us here at ZDF Studios, and we thought, yeah, it's a great topic. We haven't done anything about it, and we are always looking for global topics which work all over the world. And I think there is nothing more global than the very concept of time, because we are all dependent on it. And therefore we said right away, yes, we are on board, and we'll help you to find a co-production partner for that.
And did Jia come to mind straight away? At what time did you come into the picture, Jia?
I think it's more minds which came to me in this case. I think when Nicholas mentioned this story about time, of course, as Nicholas said, actually, I think it concerns all of us. So definitely, it's, I mean, regardless of Chinese or whoever, where you are from. I thought, of course, we have always been talking about time also throughout the thousands of years in China, I guess. So I said, Nicholas, would you be interested in having a Chinese partner? Nicholas said, oh, that's going to be difficult. And because I guess it's a challenging, it's appeared to be a challenging process in the last decade. No, Nicholas, just you said, well, Jia, well, why don't you give it a try? And we are open. So I said, okay. When I came back, actually, it was already some kind of confirmed interest from CMG. And also for me, it was a encouraging first step, in a sense that, of course, there was no official green light yet, but their first reaction from CMG Chinese Media Group, which used to be known as CCTV, the first reaction was already immediately, wow, this is interesting. So that's how we kind of started to have a conversation.
And so what happened
Yeah,
there?
indeed, in the triangular between ZDF Studios of the fans and CMG, we've been looking for a common project to do together for some time. And well, thanks to Ja, because without her it wouldn't have been possible. After some trial and error, we found this project, and well, it seems really it's the right one.
So, Ja, we're going to show the trailer in a minute, but it'd be really interesting to get a sense of the time it took to do the deal. So you sound out, you do a soft pitch or a hard pitch, whatever, to CMG, and then how long did it take to actually sign the co-production deal?
I think Nicholas knows the exact period of time
Yeah,
as well as I
I
do.
think,
Yeah,
yeah.
it was like
I think it was
nearly
like
a year.
one and a half years until it was finally signed. Well, there was a basic agreement after a little less than 1 year, but then the final steps to get everybody on board who has to be on board really took a few more months in the end.
Yeah.
So basically a year of kind of real commitment to development, and then another 6 months to paper it and to move further on into pre-production. Let's take a break now, and our associate producer, Caitlin, will insert the trailer that you prepared for our MIPDOC co-production summit. So let's have a look at the trailer.
What is time? Is it just what we read on a clock? Or do we each have our own perception of time?
I'm in this moment in time, but are there other moments in time that exist simultaneously? And this is the distinction of what we call two different views of natural time, presentism and eternalism.
Time passes differently for each of us. How quickly or slowly depends on a number of factors. How warm or cold it is. Where we are. What we are doing. Sometimes we even lose track of time, which also depends on how old we are. Our lifetime is extremely short compared to the age of our planet, and we haven't known its age for that long. A 17th century theologian calculated it to be just under 6,000 years old. But just a few decades later, scientific experiments proved that the planet had to be much older.
Control, both autos, engine command override off.
However, its true age of 4.5 billion years was only revealed through moon dust and radiological measurements. But what defines our life on Earth? It is no longer just natural time, with cycles like sowing and harvesting. We have imposed our own time on nature. And we are living faster by the day. Our happiness often falls by the wayside. The world's longest happiness study, which has been running at Harvard University for 90 years, shows that we often don't find enough time for what makes us happy.
The most important finding when we look back is the finding that relationships keep us happier and healthier throughout the lifespan.
Join us on a journey through space and time, from the first recordings of time in cave paintings to the place where today's division of time was established. We will explore the long series of timepieces that have increasingly shaped our lives, from ancient times to the present day. Right up to the design of a clock for 10,000 years.
So there you go. It's a two-parter, Nicholas.
Yeah, it's a two-parter. And as you could see a little bit in the trailer, it's of course very difficult to visualize time. So the two-parter is of course very rich in CGI and very rich in various stories. On one hand, stories about humankind's experience to measure time in any way. And there, of course, China was way ahead the Western world thousands of years ago. So therefore, there's a very concrete Chinese aspect. And the other aspect is the way we feel time, how time flows, which concept we have of time, a circular concept or a linear concept, and what various, also again, Western and Eastern philosophies tell about time and what psychologists say about time. And this is told in very small story arcs of like 7, 8, 10 minutes. And so after these 2 hours, it's almost 2 full hours, 2 by 58 minutes of programming, you get a really a good idea of what time actually is.
Zhao, were there particular story angles, story arcs that CMG and the Chinese market wished to emphasize that were distinctive from your German-based co-production partner?
I think how it started is that Jens and his collaborator already had a lot of research done, let's say, except China. So they already have some kind of overall story arch and also the scope of each story. So I think that was a very high start point, and meaning that when a Chinese colleague looked at the proposal, basically that was also for them some, in a way, content-wise, to say yes, because they thought, okay, China could probably add something in different aspect which this particular story would like to address. As Nicholas said, it's philosophical, it's measurement, it's maybe also perception, and also from the ancient time till the current time. So I think that also forms some kind of frame for the Chinese colleagues to give their creative input. And I thought that was the most interesting part, and as a collaborator on this project, as an executive producer, because what happened is that the Chinese colleague actually provided 10 different small stories fitting into this overall story structure. And then Jens, the director, and chose from these. So it's actually quite an interactive process to choose the right one, which kind of, meet both ends, so to speak. And so we addressed the Taoism, for example, that really is going very deep into the ancient time, but also I would say the core of the origin of the Chinese philosophy about life, about time, its own, to the high-speed train ends, which of course is really very much embedded in our time right now, how logistically this modern time is being managed. And lots of things in between, just to say, it's very much an interactive process, and it's not really that CMG wants to tell this or that. It's more like everybody wants to tell these 5 chosen stories in the end.
So the takeaway was that it was a smooth collaborative project, not a diversion, as we often see with co-productions, where each partner wants their own quite distinct version, different treatment, different format, etc. There's a lot of compatibility there.
I think I don't want it to make it very romantic, because I think whenever when you kind of try to sit down for the first time, you know, and especially when the cultures are very different from each other, there is always something to discuss. But I feel this openness of discussing things that you may not necessarily understand or agree at the first place is really the key. Both from Jens and as well as from CMG end. I think that has been quite a process of finding the right balance. But I think it's very valuable, really. Also, but I'm not saying it's not challenging, especially
Well,
be in the between. I think it's quite something.
Especially, Peter, in the beginning, you said, yeah, we took 1.5 years for the contracting, and then we started the pre-development process. Well, actually, it happened all at the same time.
Right.
So the contracting and the shooting on location, both in China and in the 8 other countries where shooting took place, and the editorial discussion, that all happened at the same time, which, of course, was a very challenging thing to do.
Very complex, particularly with that distance. Look, even this morning I read about increasing trade wars between the West, particularly in this case today, the States and China. So were there any cultural issues in terms of, or cultural/political international relations issues, whereby each party had particular points of view that were being promoted or discarded that created friction points?
Not really in this project. I think it is rather, Peter, like the contracting, it's also like 2 big organizations have their own template, let's say. Actually, you know, we spend a lot of time discussing this very detailed point, and which I think are not really some showstopper at not that level, but it's just a matter of principles that both ends somehow don't necessarily immediately agree, because one side is ZDF, the other side is another public broadcaster representing China. So I feel like, oh, we are both right, you know. we are. So I feel for this particular story, I don't see any political disagreement in this sense.
No, I think, of course, the business culture is a little bit different and so
Yeah.
on. The bureaucracy is a little bit different. But no, I wouldn't say either that there were any political issues. Of course, we especially chose a topic which is not a political
Exactly.
topic, which is a very global and very, very general human and scientific topic. We, of course, deliberately did so because with more current affairs stories, it might have been more difficult. And well, you know, in the media business, I don't think there is a big trade war coming on between China and the West. So you know, both Germany and China, of course, are significant players in the media business, but maybe not superpowers where there is a big competition like in the car manufacturing industry or anything else. So therefore, yeah, no disturbance from that.
That's
side.
great. I didn't mean to be provocative in answering that question, but it is on people's minds. So, you know, you established a really positive co-production relationship between ZDF Studios and Off the Fence and CMG China. Do you believe that that's the basis for pursuing future projects, particularly in science, you know, where there is that kind of comfort that you won't be caught up in potentially contentious questions?
Well, personally, I definitely hope this is, of course, the most challenging kickoff. And Peter was also reacting to your provocative questions. Of course, I think China, the size does matter. It's a super-sized country, you know, so that it invites controversial, let's say, trade war or something like that, you know, is not unexpected. But therefore, I also feel, especially after COVID, that people, especially this cultural exchange and cultural collaboration, could make some difference when it comes to the understanding, also the friendship, because if you don't know each other, you definitely will very easily become some kind of enemies. Just to get back, I think, Nicholas, I hope you would agree that, of course, this is just really a kickoff, that we are looking for new project. And I think TerraX could be really a very good partner in that sense, because it's a focus of science and history, I think, could bypass.
I think so too. I think we've learned a lot in this collaboration, and we invested all, both us from the sort of business affairs side, but especially also the filmmakers and editors invested a lot of time and energy to get it going. And I think we can use this learning for a future project, and it will surely go smoothly. And of course, there's a lot of interesting stories to be told, which would also lend themselves to a German-Chinese co-production.
Well, I must say, I really hope so. Documentary Business, we published a simultaneous Chinese language edition for a couple of years, 10 years ago. I believe so strongly in the importance of cultural exchanges between the two largest economies and the emerging superpower and the existing superpower. And it was kind of disappointing that effort wasn't sustained. And it's very exciting to me that level of cultural exchange is coming back through co-productions like yours. So congratulations to you. So let's finish up with takeaways or takeaway. Jia, what's your big takeaway for this project as you advise other producers who are considering, working on this stage?
I think, as we mentioned also, I still feel that it's the right timing, the right person, and the right project that really is the key. And of course, that takes still, based on that, a lot of willingness and openness to really stick to that point, because it was not an easy journey, to take. At any moment, things can go wrong. But I think what didn't let it go wrong is really, really the strong trust, but also the willingness to make things happen in the right direction. And also, I think everybody on this never had this feeling that we're going to quit. And because we encountered a lot of troubles, really troubles after troubles, and all kind of first time troubles, so I feel that is really, really important. But also not to romanticize this, Peter. It's like, I'm aware of the difficulty. I think it also comes with expertise, but maybe also experience, to evaluate how difficult this could be already beforehand, whom you should approach as CMG, whom you should speak to at ZDF end, so that, even despite these difficulties, you still have the right people and right kind of basis to tackle these problems. So I hope that makes sense to the listeners.
And I'm sure, Jia, that producers wishing to work with China will be reaching out to you based on the success of this project. So what about you, Nicholas, the big takeaway or takeaways?
Yeah, basically the same. Yes, you need a topic which resonates in both countries. You need people who are open to work in that very collaborative way. So it doesn't make sense to have a program which is already half finished and start from that. And finally, yes, the right people, and especially you need someone like Jia, of course, because without her, it simply wouldn't have been possible, even if the willingness on both sides is very big. But to have that bridge of communication at all stages, from the very early pitching phase to the delivery of the material and the selection of the material, I think it's really invaluable. So that's something which practically every Western production company willing to work with China must have someone who knows the market and the country and then the business style and so on very, very well, because otherwise there is practically practically no chance to get this done.
Yeah, that's great, Nicholas. I would add, as a Australian who's lived in New York for 40 years, don't underestimate the scale and power of the German market, and particularly its leading public broadcasters, and notably ZDF Studios. Don't overlook the power, the scale of the market, the financial resources, the expertise in co-productions that you represent, Nicholas. And you've been a pillar of the international co-production community, particularly with respect to science, natural history, you know, these important kind of bedrock programs that are widely distributed internationally. So congratulations to you and your colleagues at ZDF too, Nicholas. And
thank you. I'll forward it, and we do our best to be still quite a stable point in this ever-changing world of the TV business.
Well, it's an ever-changing world, and what's really great is this. In this case, the change is positive. We're seeing a shift back to co-productions with China and the West, and that's a really great development. And congratulations to you both. And we look forward to future projects. So thank you so much.
Thank you very much,
Peter.